Good morning. Today we're going to look into the topic of qualitative research method. Right. Under this qualitative research method, we have multiple methodologies, and multiple methods that you can use to collect your data from your respondents, your subject matter, whatever content that you are going to analyze, and so on. Right. Under qualitative research method, the main concept is always right. The emphasis is about human interaction and how humans make meanings around them, right? Around the media content around them, in the context of communication and social science research, right? So we have divided them into two parts of method, two different sections, right? Here we look at one of the few methods. We can say quite an easy, straightforward method to use in collecting your data, right? In data collection methods, right, we have observation. Right? Observation, as you can see, right, is what we call closely associated, right? It brings certain level of similarity between the characteristics, pretty much similar with ethnography, only that you will see the difference in the sense that you don't have to necessarily participate in the community, in the society that you're going to conduct a research about. Right here, let's say for instance participant observation, right? It is intensive in the sense that you have to put a lot of time. Right, you would examine, you would inspect, you will closely observe the happenings in, for instance, a social group. Let's say you want to observe the behavior let's take the classic example of media effects, right, for that matter. I want to observe that whether adults are affected by long duration of exposure to media contents. Right. Then there's the observation. Right. One group is let's say it's a control experiment, like the Bandura's experiment, right, in the early 60s to understand the media effects. Right. One group is exposed to media content, another group is not exposed to media content at all. And then you see, if you see and observe that that those who are exposed to media content are much more violent compared to those who are not exposed at all to media content, then there's a sort of observation, right? You see, you introduce some variables, right, and then you make a conclusion out of it, right? Or another examples, like you want to observe how people behave during lunch hour at McDonald's, for that example, as an example, right? And then compare that with how people behave, how the customers behave or react during, let's say, much more, not at the peak times, but let's say around 4, around 5 evening time, right? So you make a comparison, you observe how they behave, are there any differences in their tone, in their modulation, right, in their attitude, are they more respectful, or there are body statures that are more dominating, right, or agitated and so on, right? So that's basically participant observation, observing the behavior learns meaning system, right? Classic participant observation studies, right? These are the classic examples, right? Are more very psychological centric, right? Because you want to observe whether there are differences in their pattern of behavior. Okay? Let's say in psychology, like Edward Bandura's study itself is a psychological study, right? So that it was widely used, right? Here, why observation becomes a method that is gaining relevance or prominence, right? It's because, right, one criticism on ethnographers in ethnography is that ethnographers take an overt role, right? Exposing themselves, becoming a member of the group that you're studying about, right? Getting yourself immersed, right? Getting yourself very familiar, not to say familiar, very close with the subject, the people who are being studied. What is the problem with that? The problem is more probably, right? You would be influenced of their culture, for instance, right? And then it would may lead you to be either biased or prejudiced against the subject matter, right? Whether you would grow likes or dislikes of this community or the subject that you're studying about, right? So that's why observation can to say that it's somehow or relatively distant from your subject matter. Not necessarily you have to interact with your participants, right? You can also take an anonymous role, right? You don't have to introduce yourself to them, right? You don't have to participate directly inside the community or the society. Field observation, right, aims to observe, interact and understand people while they are in natural environment. Right? Natural environment, which means basically, if let's say my natural environment would be my home back in Kerala, for instance, right? Urban area, right? Provided with a lot of basic necessities, right? Transportation and so on. So, right, how people react in their natural environment. Another example would be like the indigenous community. How do they react, interact with one another? What are their culture? What are their cultures? What are their eating habits? Right? What is their mode of living, right? Means of economic and so on, right? What is their source of income and so on and so forth, right? That's why we say that this is somehow related to ethnography, because ethnography's objective of their study is somehow related to this fact as well. Right? Nature conservationists, they observe behavior of animals in their natural surroundings and the way they react, right? What you call zoologists and so on and so forth, right? Animal experts, veterinarians, and so on. Right? They will try to examine how animals behave in their own natural surroundings, or whether they are crossbreed and so on. When you extract them, whether if they are in the danger of extinction, right? They will breed them and then put them in conservation, in conservation and so on, right? So how do they react? Are there any changes in their behavior, right? Would they be aggressive, right? Or would they be passive, to want to be associated with other animals and so on and so forth, right? The same logic is applied in social science as well, right? Conducting field research, you conduct interviews, right? Field research, right? You go there, you watch, you observe what happens, or you can interview with your participants. Observe people from a distance to understand how they behave in a social environment and how they react to situations. Let's say if there's a flood, right? How people in Penang react compared to the indigenous community, right? The urban and the indigenous community who lives in the outskirts, in the mountains, and the village, right? Same phenomenon, but how people react differently, right? One is, of course, to gain close and intimate familiarity with a given group of individuals and their practices through an intensive involvement with people in their culture. Right? How people are interacting, how they are growing up, how they are developing their cultural values, right? Any particular cultural values that are very exclusive to this particular group of individuals, right? Do they have any faiths or beliefs that are different from the mainstream religion, and so on and so forth, right? How do they practice this? What their cultural habits, and so on. Right? You extended period of time, right? Because it takes a lot of time, right? When you don't want to be there in 1 week and then you want to make a conclusion, right? Of course, as a student, you are constrained by time and so on, but that would then give you a comprehensive analysis, right? So if let's say you take a year to analyze and to be involved in this research, then you might see different, what are the different festivals, the significance of maybe different months to them, maybe are there any cultural practices, right, fasting, or maybe hunting, that's a special, certain months that are only exclusive for hunting of, what do you call it, wild hunting and so on and so forth, right? By living with the culture study, researchers were able to formulate first-hand accounts of the subject's life. Right here it says that basically first-hand accounts is that you are being there directly witnessing yourself, right? Witnessing the content, witnessing what is happening. Through your own eyes, right? You're not using secondary sources like reading from what others have written before, right? It is your own own observation. You are there, you are witnessing for yourself, and then here it increases validity of your research, and it also increases the questions of validity at the same time. Like, remember the paradox question, right? Why? Because everything that comes into the research are your own observations, right? There's no one to cross-check with you, right? At the moment it is written, right? Because you're all, right? So that would be questioned as well, right? However, since since you are there, since you are, let's say, being there physically or living with them, right, renting a place around the community and so on, right, it gives you enough exposure, right, sufficient exposure to understand their practices, their daily life, their routine and so on, right, hidden details, taboo behavior, right, taboo behavior like cultural taboos, right, whether you can speak of these things or not, whether you are allowed to wear certain attire or not, right? Whether there are limitation in their food habits and so on, right? Like, what is allowed, what is disallowed and so on, right? Right, you can find or discover discrepancies between what participants say and often believe, right? They may say that your respondents might say that they do not consume alcohol, right? But maybe in their practice, maybe it's part of their culture, right? And so on and so forth. These are the certain things that you can identify and you put it down, right? Because not necessarily whatever they say are truest sense, right? Here you can observe for yourself, witness for yourself what is happening. Right, 4 stages of participant observation, right? You have to establish a rapport if you are going to interact with them, right? It is advised for you to establish rapport, then you introduce yourself, right? Get a letter from the institution, right? Let them know why you are doing the research content, what is the content, and so on and so forth. In the form of seeking approval, right? To make sure they know what is happening. And then second, immersing oneself, right? You get on the field, right? Get your hands and feet dirty, right? Stroll around the place, interact with everyone, right? Get yourself familiarized with the data in the sense and your respondents and so on. And then record, of course. Then consolidate the information gathered, right? Collect all the information that you've gathered and then you may leave once you find that you have you have accumulated enough information. Right? These are types of observation, right? You can see here very simple, right? Non-participatory, right? Taking a what do you call, not getting involved within population, being passive, moderate, active, and complete, right? Each and every type of observation obviously depends on the research questions, research objective, your topic, right? What it tries to achieve. If you find that being passive and moderate is fine, right, for you to collect sufficient data for your research, then it's all right. Right? Or you want to make an active participation, right? Maybe you feel that people would be be opening up to you only if you become an active member of the group. Then maybe it requires you to learn certain skills, language for you to interact with them, right? Role of researcher, right, completes the activity alongside the group, right? If they are aware you are there to learn their culture, you want to understand about them, then maybe you have the role of, you have the responsibility of learning from them directly and also. So it creates some form of trust, right? For example, like if you watch the movie Avatar, right? How the Americans, right? How the Americans transport themselves to the lives of the Navi tribe, right? He learns the culture, he learns the language, he learns the way of life, and then it somehow elevates the bonding between them, right? Strengthen their bonds, right? Participant observation, right? I'm repeating that. Steps are also same as already what we mentioned earlier, right? Developing the rapport and so on. Right? These are the strengths and weaknesses. Right? So, okay, ethnography, right? It related to cultural anthropology, right? Basically, you want to examine human behavior in a cultural context, right? To be alive, what do you call? How they react, and how they live in their natural environment. Exactly is what observations earlier said. The difference is that ethnography, you are supposed to live with them, right? Like if you want to understand the lives of, like here example, right, Amazon tribe, right? Most probably you have to spend like 6 months to 1 year, live with them and so on, right? Observe the day-to-day behavior, right? And what do you call it? You have to be there physically, right? There's no compromise to that, right? Ethnography is as such. Describe, analyze, and interpreting culture sharing, group share patterns of behavior, beliefs, and language that develop over time. Exactly what I mean. The basic understanding of the basic logic is very much similar to observations, right? Here you want to describe what are happening, right? What is happening in this specific community that you are studying about, right? Analyze whether there are relevance or there are any interlink, right? Maybe you want to do a ethnography study about the relationship between human and environment, right? How do they respect the environment, the nature, right? So on and so on. Analyze and interpret whether they are whether there is a link, right? A link that may be saying that their religious beliefs, right, emphasize for natural conditions, right, natural environment, and so on and so forth. Right? You can include language, rituals, economy. These are all can be studied. Right? Political structures, like what you call the way they live. Who are the leaders of the tribe, for instance? Are there any leaders, right? Where if let's say, for example, say one of the Orang Asli community, I think it's Rawa, the Batik community. The leader of the house, right? And also the tribe, if I'm not mistaken, is a woman. right, is a woman, right? So it's very much different compared to the normal patriarchal society, right? Typically spends considerable time in the field, right? You observe and gather documents about your culture and so on, right? It's to learn rather than study members of the cultural group. You learn, you try to grasp them, right? Not only investigate, but you try to learn them, like learning a language, where you try to speak them. So that is that is one of the main aim of ethnography. You can study people, ethnic groups, and other ethnic formation, right? Composition, resettlement, like from rural to urban migration, right? Whether they are in fact to urban migration, what happens when intensive development takes place in rural places, right? Whether they are displacement, whether they are evicted from their natural conditions, deforestation, right? And so on and so forth. So we have 3 types of ethnography, right? One is realist, right? Giving an objective account of the situation, typically written in the third person point of view, right? Which means even though you are immersing yourself in the data, but you don't want to be influenced by the happenings in the. So it's like describing exactly what is happening, right? Objectively, on the information learned from the participant, right? So there's no cultural interpretation for that sense, right? There are no interpretations beyond what is said and practiced in that context, in that environment. Narrates the study and reports on observations of participants and their views. It does not offer personal reflections. Right? You don't get yourself involved to the extent that you're writing your personal interpretations and reflections, right? And contaminated by personal bias, political goals, and judgment. Right. Case study ethnography is focusing on an in-depth understanding. Right here, we can see that one is single case study and then comparatively multiple case studies. Right. Case study could be like any event, any natural catastrophes, right? Any issues, phenomena. So, for instance, like you want to study about what do you call it? The effects of tsunami to Penang fishermen, right? Penang fishing community, right? It is a single case design, right? Single case study, because the chances of it to repeat are very less, right? So you maybe want to make a comparison of effects of tsunami in Penang compared to Aceh, right? And so on and so forth, right? That's what we call as case study ethnography. So critical ethnography is the focus is more on advocating for the emancipation, right, the liberation, the individual freedom of the marginalized in our society. Right? Who are the marginalized in our society? Right? There are many, right? LGBT communities are marginalized, right? The Indian community are mostly marginalized. The tribes, the Orang Asli community are marginalized in our society. Women, right? Women from minority groups are marginalized as well. Right? There are many group of people marginalized in society because of their ethnicity, because of their gender, their sexual orientation, and so on and so forth. Right? So the critical ethnography would try to repair, right, or try to find to restructure the society to be more equal, right? Inequity in society, whether economic inequity and so on and so forth, right? So these are the steps that you can follow in conducting ethnography. Identifying intent, right? Your own intention, and what is the type of the design you want to do. Right? Discuss approval and access consideration from supervisors, your lecturers, whoever it may be. Right? Use appropriate data collection procedures. Right? Analyze and interpret data by the interview and so on and so forth. Right? And analyze, interpret data with the design, and write the report. Right here, right, advantage of ethnography, of course, direct observation, your first-hand experience, you are there. Internal validity, because you are there directly involved, so it increases the validity, right? So you are seeing and writing. You are not hearing from anyone else. You are hearing, witnessing from your sources directly. Much more assured than relying upon external observation and other experiences. Right? Of course, time consuming, takes a lot of time. Difficult presenting the results because it's abundant, right? It's a lot. Reliability, I told you, right? The reliability questions will arise because you're both alone. So others who read your research would say that it's basically your own perspective of what is happening, right? Your safety might be compromised if you are working in a dangerous situation, so right. So that would be it. Okay.